Hey everybody, it's Allison. Welcome to my YouTube channel, or welcome back. I know it's been a while since my last video. I have a lot of fun projects to share today, featuring the new Turn the Page collection by Esther Glas and Spellbinders. So this is new. Esther is new with Spellbinders, and she is expanding on her product line with some new things, including a smaller CardLab box, and that's what we're going to focus on today. But first I'm going to show you the entire collection because it is big. It's a big collection. We're going to start with this cardstock. This is a huge book of cardstock, just really fun things to create with. Lots of vintage type stuff. There's even some accounting ledgers in here, which debits and credits. I am very familiar with those. These are the borders and labels stickers. So these are all stickers, and these are really long stickers here. So that's why they call them borders. Really fun stickers here. These are also long border stickers. And then here we get into some labels. And here's some plain labels that you can stamp on or write on. Here are some rub-ons, and I think this is new for Esther to have rub-ons, and I'll be using these a lot today. All right, next there are some die cuts, like ephemera. I think these are also new for Esther. There's also an embossing folder that I don't have, as well as I think a couple stamp sets. I know I said I'm just going to show you the entire collection, but there are those few things that I will not be showing. All right, here are some large stamp sets. The first is the Keepsake Strips stamp set. I love this. It also has all the months. This is the Keepsake Numbers stamp set. Lots of fun stamps. I love the girl math stamp. All right, let's get into some other items. This is a new binder. And here is the binder. It's really pretty color. So there's kind of an engraving. It says Spellbinders. It has Keepsake Studio on there. There are pockets, and then of course the rings to put all your fun pages. So it's very simple to open, and then you just push it closed and make sure you don't have your fingers anywhere near there. All right, let's take a look at the die sets that you can use to make pages for this binder. This is the Keepsake Capsule page set, and you can see that there are a lot of dies included in the set. All of these die sets are really big. Here's a smaller die from that set that you can also use in the binder. Here is the Page with Flap Pocket die set. Not only are these die sets big, there are a lot of them. So this die set has various tickets and a clip that you'll see on some of my projects today. This set is called Torn Edges with Tag. And again, lots of things included here. There are little screws here, screw heads, which I love. This is the Keepsake Capsule Borders. So that will help have little divider tabs on the side of your pages. And here's the CardLab box, which is what I will be focusing on today. If you're familiar with Esther Glas already, this is a new smaller size. So here are the pieces. It comes unfinished, so you can paint it or cover it with paper to really make it your own. Now this is the Torn Edges CardLab die set, which I will be using a lot of today. The main die creates the card shape that fits in the box. There are also dies to create labels for every month of the year. And we're going to dive into creating the box. Now off camera, I took some simple white acrylic paint and a cheap foam brush and just gave the pieces a coat of paint before adding a color. These sides are what will create the inside of the box, so the inside will be painted and the outside will be decorated differently. All right, so I have my paint here. This is Dina Wakley acrylic paint. It's called Watery, that's actually the name of it. And I have this cheap sponge thing that I found in my basement. I'm still finding kids' art supplies in random places. So I'm just gonna use this. And I'm not trying to get an even coat or anything here. I kind of like some of the white showing through, which is partly why I laid down the white paint first. And I'm just making really quick work out of this. Now you'll notice that the two sides slope down towards the front of the box, so you want to make sure that it's facing the front of the box. And the front is obviously smaller than the back. I'm going to use Distress Collage Medium to assemble my box, but use whatever glue you're comfortable with. I probably wouldn't use my regular glue that I use every day, but it might be okay. I don't know. I just wanted to use my Collage Medium. Now I'm using a small old paintbrush to apply the glue, and I'm going to try to get all points of contact. So I'll add glue to both pieces that I'm attaching together. I have to say that this box is super easy to put together. I was really surprised how the pieces just stayed in place so that I could continue working. Maybe that had to do with the glue that I was using, but really easy. So I'm going to put some music on while I assemble this, and I will be back. Okay, for these sticks, I am feeding them in from the outside, and then I'm going to add glue to both ends. And then I will feed it through the hole in the back. All right, so here it is all assembled, and I'm just going to grab a card that I had die cut to make sure it fits. And it is perfect. All right, now there are pieces to make a label holder to put on the outside, so I'm going to assemble that as well. And there are 3 pieces to put on the back, which is what allows you to slide a label in from the top. So again, I'm just using my collage medium to glue these pieces together. So that's where it will go. Now I have grabbed some paper from my stash. This is just some paper with some writing on it. It actually has recipes, so this would have made a really cute little recipe card holder, but you're not really gonna be able to read anything in the end. But I love having writing on paper. So you can see that I traced the box onto the paper. This one I actually traced upside down. Now for the other side, you do need to flip the one that you traced upside down so that they're facing the right direction. I I learned this by trial by error. All right, now for these pieces, I have this weird rubber brush. I've had this forever. I like using it with glue like this because I don't have to worry about washing a nice paintbrush. There are brushes to go with the collage medium, but use whatever you have. I am putting glue on the back of the paper and on the actual box to make sure I have good contact. Now, if your paper is not the exact shape, I trim that with my scissors so there's a little bit hanging over. I just have this little sandpaper. You can use actual sandpaper. This is for my craft room, this sandpaper, and I'm just filing off the edges, and it works really well. All right, so here's the back of the paper. I'm going to put glue on the box and put the paper on. I did a pretty good job of matching everything up, but again, the sandpaper is your friend here. Now I am just taking some paint to color this label holder. All right, now these little pieces of paper are an 1/8 inch thick, and I cut them from this paper, from the paper pad. They have numbers on them, and I just thought it was cute. I'm putting glue on, again, both the top of the box and the back of the paper, and this is going to cover up the edges of the box. So, I mean, there are just a multitude of ways to decorate these boxes. I could have put paper on the inside as well. That would be fun. I think it would be fun to make a box for all the holidays. So you could use Halloween paper for a Halloween box, some fun Christmas paper for Christmas box. Now I added a few more details to the box. I did rub some white paint in various places, and I also added some rub-ons. And here's my label holder ready to go, but I'm not quite done yet. I want to add a little bit more. Now I did use one of the rub-ons to make my label, but I tried to make labels with my label maker. I ended up making them in too big of a font, and then when I tried to make the font smaller, I ran out of tape. So we're going to go with the one of a kind, which I think is a cute little label for this box. Now I have these rub-ons. I've had them in my stash forever. I have never opened them. These are from 49 and Market. They're not available anymore, but there's some fun rub-ons in here that I'm going to use, including these. They look like stitching, which, does it make sense to have stitching on a box? No. But I thought it was cute. So I'm going to add stitching in various places on the box. And rubbing onto the box is just like rubbing on paper. Works just the same. So I was really happy with how easily this went on. Now, again, I think I mentioned that I had rubbed white paint onto the box just to, make the paper look a little less perfect. Even though it already kind of had an aged look to it, it wasn't just crisp writing. I just like the random placement of paint. So here I'm adding kind of more detailed rub-ons from this set. And now I'm taking black distress ink and my cheap little ink dauber and inking up the edges just to make it look a little aged. I'm not going for like grungy look, but I'm definitely making it, look a little older than it is. Adding a little bit along the edges. Now you can seal all of this with that distress collage medium as well. I haven't done that yet. I am adding some distress ink to that label holder. So here we go. Here is the box all finished, and I even have some cards in there. We'll take a look at some of these later, but for now, let's start making some projects. This is the Torn Edges CardLab die set, the main die set again that I will be using. And there are two main dies that I'm going to be using a lot, these two dies. So this paper right here is from the collection, that big thick book. And then this paper right here in my right hand, the big card, is from my stash. So these two dies can work differently. You can cut the piece separately like I did, or you can cut the big piece and then use the little piece to cut that so that it lays differently, like it overlaps differently. So I am taking some antique linen. I am using my distress inks a lot today, even though I'm kind of going cute. You know me, I love cute. I still love my distress inks. Now, this is the Words for the Wild stamp set. These are from the Storybook Illustrations by Josh Griffiths. These came out last month. There are some fabulous stamp sets in this collection. So I'm stamping this big sentiment. And of course, I love ice cream, so days like this just seemed appropriate. Now I'm going to decorate this a little bit more. I have a couple stamps that I recently bought. These are from All and Create, and they're great for making backgrounds. So I just grabbed one of these stamps, and I'm going to do kind of some tone-on-tone stamping. Now, again, there are stamps in this collection that I do use, but these cards to me are a great way to use your stash. I have grabbed stuff for these projects today that I have not used. They've been sitting around, making me feel guilty. And these cards are just meant to be fun. This little box is going to be in my craft room, and I'm going to flip through it every once in a while, and these cards are going to make me smile. And isn't that what crafting is for? So a lot of the samples you'll see of, especially the ones that Esther does, and a lot of other people, they're kind of grungy, they're kind of vintage looking, and to some people I think that can be intimidating. Maybe it's not your style. So I am, I'm trying to keep my own style. So I'm using my cute little critter from my summer camp collection. And like I said, any day with ice cream is a perfect day to me. But again, I'm trying to keep these my own. You don't have to force yourself to do a style that you're not comfortable doing. I think, again, what these cards are great for is playing and using your stash. And, my plan is to create cards with some of my favorite things. So obviously, some of my favorite things are my summer camp critters. Now I grabbed this stamp to kind of put this design around what I am pretending is a beach. So I just kind of strategically place these stamps where that torn edge piece is going to go. So I thought that was kind of cool. And now the flip side of this paper, this is double-sided paper, and it's pretty thick paper. So I stamped this bear. This is from the Wild Friends stamp set. Again, this is from Josh Griffith's studio. Just really sweet stamps. And I am not a scrapbooker. This collection is obviously great for scrapbooking. And by the way, this little frame is just for my stash, some of the plentiful ephemera in my stash that I never use. I'm not a scrapbooker, but this particular card right here with the bear is very, it is a memory for me. It's one of my most vivid memories in a national park. We were in the Tetons and we encountered this bear, and we had to follow him down the trail because we were trying to catch a boat. And he, was taking his own sweet time, and I did get pictures of him. So I love bears. They're my spirit animals. So the picture of that bear is one of my favorite photos. So this is kind of scrapbooky to me. All right, you can see that I cut a scrap of paper and I stamped it with the film strip. And now I'm grabbing some of my own border dies. These are from the torn paper edges from Spellbinders. And I'm just going to trim this. I think I had shown you, I had cut this yellow piece of paper from my stash with the CardLab die so that it fits on top of the card. Now I'm going to add a rub-on. So you just trim out whatever you want, peel off the back, and then place it on the surface that you want it on and just rub it with the popsicle stick. So here's what we have. Now, I am going to show you all the photos at the end. So I'm going to start a new project here. Doodle Pops. Does anybody else have an addiction to Doodle Pops from Doodlebug? I think I may have shown these in a video before because I bought a bunch last year when I went to a brick and mortar craft store, and I can't resist them when I see them in person. So these cards are a great way to use these. Now I have some Doodlebug paper. This is actually a new pack. They're making these new packs of petite prints. And this paper right here is from the Daisy Art Backgrounds from Stamperia. I think I've shown this in a video, maybe recently, maybe on a waffle flower card. These are great backgrounds. By the way, here's the other piece from when I used the torn edge die. Remember on the other card with the fawn, I used this bottom torn piece. You need both dies to create this top piece. So you cut it from the big die first, then you cut it with the small torn one. So I have created another piece with more Doodlebug paper, and I first cut it with the big main die. Then I cut it with the torn edge like I was just saying. So then I have this remnant right here that I'll show you. Here was the remnant, and then I cut it with another die from the set to add a different torn edge to the other side. I know that's complicated. It would have been easier had I shown you, but I didn't realize I wasn't filming at the time. So anyway, I was just grabbing dies from all these sets to make what I wanted. But I wanted like a little patch of grass there, and I wanted it to follow the line of that blue piece. So this house is super dimensional. It has a lot of layers. But how cute is that? All right, this is the Keepsake numbers stamp set. And I like this stamp at the top, but I only want part of it. So you'll see me adding just scraps of copy paper in my MISTI. And that's when a large amount of stamp is going to hang off the surface that I'm stamping, and I don't want it to just stamp on my grip mat. It can often stick to the grip mat as well. Now I was stamping onto acetate here so that I could figure out how much of this stamp I want on the edge of this card. So again, I love stamping on acetate first, and now I can stamp on the actual paper. All right, this is the page with flat pocket die set. This is the one that has this little clip and a bunch of little tickets. So I thought this little clip would be cute. And there's also a die here that I'm going to kind of make into a little label. I'm going to stamp a tiny little sentiment from my stash. And I grabbed the home word from the rub-ons, so I will add that as well. And then I'll add a house. All right, let's look at some finished cards. This one uses some classic Pooh ephemera that I've had since that collection came out, and these cards are just the perfect way to use it. This is one of the dies that you use with the months from that main Torn Edges CardLab, and I just made a little label with some ephemera from the Pooh collection. And there's those cute little screws or screw heads that I was talking about. This is the Words for the Wild stamp set again. I chose the Let's Get Lost, and I have this piece of ephemera with Pooh and the balloon. Now, here are a bunch of cards that I have cut from various pattern papers. I have bought so much pattern paper over the last several months. You know I'm totally addicted to paper. These cards are such a fun way to not only use the paper, but also, again, to use your stash and mix the paper together. Now, these papers here are from the collection, that big, huge pad of paper that I showed at the beginning. And these cards are ready to decorate and have fun with when I find the opportunity. All right, so here is the finished card with the fawn. This little bird was from a club set from a few years ago, the one with the bunny who had clothes. The bunny was cute, but I just have always had a thing for this bird, so I had to put him there. Now again, here's the bear. I did cover that right side with solid black. Remember, it started out with that film strip that I stamped. I just thought it was too busy and I didn't want to distract from the bear. Now on this one, I actually used a different house. This one is not quite as thick as that first one, or not as dimensional, and I love how the yellow pops. And how sweet is this? It's just such a great way to use these doodle pops. Now on the other side, I just added more Doodlebug paper, and the little picture in the middle was included in the same paper pack. I just wanted to minimize the dimension on this side, so that's why it's just really simple. But I like having two sides to my cards, especially if the paper's thinner. And here, this yellow paper at the bottom, I first cut a scrap of it using that main card die, and then I used this cloud edge die. It's just really fun diving into your stash and using different border dies and everything else. Now, speaking of diving into stash, I saved my favorite for last. This uses the Cozy Toes set, which was a large die of the month from a few years ago, along with the Cozy Friends, which is where the cows come from. And this card really was all about that funny stamp from Riley and Company. I just love their sentiments, but it's kind of like the Doodle Pops. I never really know what to do with the sentiments, so these cards are, again, the perfect thing to use. Now on the other side of this, I added more Doodlebug paper, and I plan on adding this little Doodle Pop. The other side with the pajama pants isn't terribly dimensional, so I think the card can handle a dimensional Doodle Pop. And you saw I had a lot of Doodle Pops left, so they make me smile, but they've been sitting in a bucket almost since the day I bought them. So now I can have them in this little card box, and you know, when I need a smile, I can just go there and flip through. 'Cause look at that. How sweet is that? All right. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you're still with me, I know it's been so long. I say this all the time. I hope to be putting out more videos, but it's a lot, and I've been trying to take a little bit of a break from social media this month. So, but I do have a lot coming. All right, that is it for me today. Thank you so much for joining me. All the supplies are listed below. There are a lot. And actually, they might not all be listed below because there's so many. So you can go to my blog to see the full extensive supply list. All right, everybody, have a great day. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.